Hey up, Duck, it's time to look back on game week 2 of the Championship season. We'll be reviewing every game, including West Ham's honking start. Middlesbrough underwhelm again. A great time to be a team from South London, or if your name is West Brom, and a Puskas winner. All that's to come on today's roundup. Before we get underway, please make sure you hit that like button. It would massively support this channel so much, so just take 5 seconds to do that. I would greatly appreciate it. Right. Let's get into it. West Ham United 1, Charlton Athletic 2. Well. Who saw this coming? Not 60,000 West Ham fans, I imagine, who crammed into the London Stadium for this game, expecting to see the start of a new dawn for their team. And instead, full-time, boos at the final whistle. Yeah, feels like we've heard that story before, doesn't it? Yeah. Not good from West Ham by any stretch of the imagination. They did miss a 93rd minute penalty, but I mean that just compounds the misery for West Ham fans. And if they did score that, it would be hard pressed to say that it would have been what West Ham deserved. It would have been very unfair on Charlton if that penalty did go in, because they were brilliant in this game. They fully deserved the 3 points. They defended so resolutely, and West Ham just could not find a way through them. They lacked penetration throughout this game, which is remarkable considering the talent they have got on their books, but they could just not break down that very, very stubborn Charlton team. And what a result this is for them. 2 wins from 2. They're joint top of the league now. And I mean, this has got to be one of their best results of the last 20 years, hasn't it? They haven't had much to celebrate in that time, don't get me wrong, but what a result this is for Charlton. And Nathan Jones knew that after this game. He turned into the fist pump 2000 after this, because he was giving it the big one afterwards, but he's got every right to do so because he pulled off a tactical masterclass in this game, kept West Ham at arm's length, and they fully deserve the 3 points in this one. I wanted to highlight Tyrese Campbell once again. I highlighted him last week as well because he scored a great goal against Derby, scored again here. He is such a talent and has been linked with a move away, but if he stays at Charlton, he could be such a huge player for them this coming season. So congrats to Charlton. 2 brilliant results for them so far. They've had a great start, and this is just wow. It doesn't get any better than this for them, does it? But for West Ham, I mean, dear me, it's been the complete opposite of a great start for them. I mean, summed up perfectly by this. West Ham's starting 11 for this game cost 145 million in transfer fees alone. That's not even getting into wages and what have you. And that's compared to Charlton, whose starting 11 cost just £2 million. Their team is mainly made up of free transfers, loan players, academy players. There's only 2 players who actually cost fees, and one of them is ironically Connor Coventry, who they signed from West Ham. But yeah, I mean, it's been worrying for West Ham this. The Burnley game last weekend wasn't great. Yes, they were 2-0 up at one point, but that wasn't a fair reflection on the game. And then you've got this, and this was concerning, to say the very least. I mean, you go through the players here. Some big names who West Ham have had play for them in the Premier League, but the only player who can come out of this with any credit for me was Manor Solomon. He was the only one who looked like he was there to try and do something. But everyone else just really flattered to deceive. It was a honking performance from West Ham. And they're sat here now with 1 point from their first 2 games. I would say they're fortunate to have even that 1 point. And I cannot believe how poor they have been so far. But the thing is, West Ham don't really have an excuse to have been as poor as they have been. Yes, their squad is patchy, but you've got fucking Jared Bowen in your team. Manor Solomon, Tati Castellanos, huge names. I mean, Bowen's a huge name in the Premier League, let alone the Championship. And then another excuse you could throw here is, it's hard to change the atmosphere at a team who are losing every week. But West Ham weren't. They had the 13th best record in the second half of the Premier League last season, despite getting relegated. So it's not like they were losing every single week. You can make the excuse, the fans hate the owners, and that's led to an unsettled atmosphere. But the owners are virtually out the door. The fans hate the stadium. There were 60,000 fans at the London Stadium for this game. So As far as relegations from the Premier League go, the circumstances could have not been much better for West Ham heading into this season. But despite that, they have looked so poor in these first 2 games. Like, you can maybe give them a bit of let them off to a certain extent for not being, in top gear right from the start. But this has been, I don't even know what gear this is. They're out of gear, if you want to stick with that reference or metaphor, because this is a problem. This is a huge, huge problem for West Ham after just 2 games. And yes, it is just 2 games, but it's worrying to say the very least. Why has it been so bad? The only people who know will be this West Ham squad and Nuno. Are the players complacent after coming down to the Championship? Were they expecting that their quality and their teammates would just blow every team away in the division? Maybe that's the case. And the chances are that West Ham, when the transfer window closes, everything will be a lot more settled and they will have a significantly enhanced squad compared to what they have now, because even though West Ham have spent a fair bit of money in the past couple of weeks, I would expect them to go out there and spend big in the next week and a bit still. But I mean, this start does paint a pretty worrying picture, because when you have the likes of Jared Bowen in your team, I know I keep mentioning him, but he should be too good for the Championship, and he's been poor in these first few games, as has every other teammate that he has alongside him, apart from Manor Solomon, who's the only one I can really give credit to in these first 2. And this is undoubtedly going to pile the pressure on Nuno. I think from an outsider's perspective, we look at Nuno and think, oh, he's a huge positive for West Ham because of what he's achieved over the past 10 years or so in English football. But we have got to keep in mind, he isn't the most fondly thought of amongst West Ham fans. They're not entirely convinced that he is the man who they want to guide them back to the Premier League, and this is only going to add to the uncertainty that many West Ham fans have towards him. So yeah, the pressure was on to a certain extent before a ball was even kicked, but these first 2 games will have massively powered it on. They've got Watford away next. Tricky game. Watford have looked good in these first 2 games. And if that isn't a result for West Ham, then, yeah, questions will start getting asked. There's no doubt about that. 2 goals in 6 minutes for Blackburn saw them come from behind to win 2-1 at home to Middlesbrough. Do you know how much abuse I've got from Middlesbrough fans this past week? And so for them to then serve up this, I can't lie, it's very, very satisfying. Middlesbrough dominated the ball in this game, but despite being behind for 35 minutes, they created nothing. Absolutely nothing. Will Lancashire, very isolated up front. Morgan Whittaker with a very Morgan Whittaker kind of game, blowing very hot and cold. Miles Peart-Harris, poor. The entire team, very, very poor. And the worrying thing for me is if I was a Middlesbrough fan would be that this wasn't even reminiscent of what we saw with Middlesbrough at the back end of last season, where they had all the possession, they just could not put the ball in the back of the net. Here, they weren't even creating chances. This was a very blunt showing from Middlesbrough. And it's 2 games in a row now where they have been very, very underwhelming against 2 sides, by the way, who the vast majority of people have tipped to go down this season. I mean, I've tipped both of these 2 to finish as my bottom 2, which, I mean, may say a lot about my prediction skills, but we'll find out about that come the end of the season. But that's concerning for Boro. This is a worrying start. It is just 2 games. We won't get carried away, but it does play into my narrative about Middlesbrough's new signings not being Kim Hellberg players, which is the reason why I've got a lot of stick from Middlesbrough fans this past week. I've had so much blowback. One of the clips I put out got 500,000 views, 200 odd replies on social media, mainly calling me a twat. And here we are with Middlesbrough serving up this. This is why I have got a bit of an extra pep in my step this weekend. And I know it's not all Middlesbrough fans, by the way, who have been giving me stick over my opinion that it's these signings aren't Kim Hellberg players. Some have said, okay, don't necessarily agree with you, but fair enough if that's the way you feel. But I would say the vast majority have been strongly disagreeing with me, is one way to put it. But look, I've had a lot of Middlesbrough fans say to me, what on earth do you actually mean by these new signings not being Kim Hellberg players? Let me explain, because I don't want to explain it again and again. So I'll just say it this one time because I just want to get back to football and not have to shield my DMs from crying Middlesbrough fans. Because it's something I've been saying all summer. It's not just something that I've been saying in the past couple of weeks. I've been saying it ever since Middlesbrough signed the likes of Cal Joseph and what have you. Some Borough fans have said to me, how do you know what a Kim Hellberg player is? And what I would say to that is, he's had 36 games in charge of Borough now. That's a pretty good sample size to know what kind of player will suit a Kim Hellberg system best. The idea is, out of possession, you work hard, you press. In possession, you've got to be good on the ball. You move the ball quickly. 1-2s, 1 or 2 touches. You've got to move it quickly. If you want to fit that system, you've got to be good enough technically. And the issue that I have with Middlesbrough's signings is, I don't look at all these players and think they are good enough technically on the ball. Cal Joseph is basically the antithesis of that. Out of every forward in the Championship last season, he was ranked 120th out of 129 forwards for passing accuracy, 104th out of 129 forwards for final third passing accuracy. Yes, he works hard, but trust me, I saw the ball bounce off Cal Joseph's shins enough times last season to know he is not the most technically gifted of forwards in the division. So that's why I'm very confused about that signing. Will Lancashire, admittedly, has had a great start to the season. Great finisher. But for me, just not amazing outside of the box. Although, admittedly, most of my showings of him last season were in an Oxford shirt and he wasn't, having the greatest of service there. So maybe he might be a Kim Hellberg kind of player, but he just doesn't suit the perfect Kim Hellberg frontman, if you ask me. If you said Kim Hellberg at the start of the season, if you could sign any striker, who would it be? I don't think he would have said Will Lancashire, put it that way. Miles Peart-Harris, I mean, we saw a great summary here of why he doesn't look like a Kim Hellberg player for me in this game. Ashley Phillips, great prospect, but I don't see him as a ball-playing centre-half exactly. So that's another one where I'm just like, doesn't seem like he suits. Radek Vitek, great goalkeeper, but not the kind of goalkeeper. He's not exactly Edison when it comes to his ability with the ball at his feet. So that's another one where I go, are all these players suited to exactly how the manager wants to play? I look at Seb Bearhalter, who's come in. He looks like he's a Kim Hellberg player. Maybe Max Arfston, I don't know. I haven't seen enough of it. But they've spent 40 odd million on these players. It's more than fair to scrutinise them and say, are all these players, have they spent that money perfectly? And look, you're never going to spend that money perfectly. But when Middlesbrough's record with spending over the years, it has been as mixed as it has been, then you've got to look at these, go, I'm not entirely sure that this is going to work out as well as it should do. I think, one final thing I'll say is, I think Middlesbrough will do well this season. I had them third in my pre-season predictions, but in my eyes, if anything is going to cost them promotion, it's these new signings not being the kind of players that instantly click into how Kim Hellberg wants to play. And I think we have seen that perfectly in these first 2 games, which, have definitely been worrying if I was someone who was strong on Middlesbrough to get promoted this season. So that's what I'll say on that. It's just 2 games, but I left a lot to be desired in these 2 games, is what I would say. I've spent all this time talking about Middlesbrough. I haven't spoken at all about Blackburn when I really should, because they were phenomenal here. Considering pretty much everyone, I think, has had them to go down this season, I have been very impressed with them in these first two games. They defended superbly here. And yeah, looked like a completely different side to the one we saw for the most part last season, who, keep in mind, only stayed up because Leicester ended up getting a points deduction. Andre Goodjohnson has had an amazing start. I won't be surprised if he scores a lot of goals this season. May even be a cheeky shout for top goal scorer. Sam Morsey, by the way, looks like a very sensible addition in midfield. So, yeah, optimism levels with Blackburn still at the cautious level, but they're a lot higher than they were prior to the season actually starting. So well done, Blackburn. Brilliant start by them. And maybe predictions of them to go down are wide of the mark. A second half double from Isaac Price saw West Brom win 3-1 at home to Burnley. Wow, oh wow. If there were any doubts about James Morrison continuing the great form at West Brom from the end of last season, then this is some way to prove those people wrong, including me. I'll admit that, because I wasn't entirely sure whether that would be the case, because West Brom's transfer business over the summer saw them mainly sign players who are completely unproven at this level. But 2 wins from 2, a great start, including this performance right here against a Burnley side just relegated from the Championship, from the Premier League even. Yeah, it didn't start very well for West Brom. Callum Stiles scoring a very funny own goal, where I don't know why he didn't go for that with his right foot, because, yeah, he made a right old hash of that. But West Brom soon drew level once again, with Harry Whitwell scoring his first league goal for West Brom. And I'd say the first half looked pretty even, really. I'd say West Brom probably just edged it, but there wasn't much between the two sides. And then the second half, West Brom just blew Burnley away. Burnley looked very disjointed here. They didn't really lay a glove at all on West Brom in that second half. It was a complete night and day performance compared to what we saw from them on the opening day of the season. But they just could not handle that man, Isaac Price, who was brilliant in this game. His first goal, West Brom's second goal, was sensational. I jumped out my seat when I saw that one going, and then he scored a penalty not long after that as well. Isaac Price, last season, did underwhelm a fair bit. Obviously, West Brom struggled massively last season, and I was pretty disappointed with him, because he was one in particular who really struggled, which was a surprise, because I was really excited about him heading into last season, but it didn't go very well at all. If this performance is anything to go by, then maybe he has got things back on track, because he was electric here in this game for the Baggies. Their best player, without a shadow of a doubt, and if he can reproduce this form as the season goes on, then yeah, he's going to be a dangerous player for West Brom, one of the best midfielders in the Championship. I've got no doubt about that, because he's got the potential to be at that level. We've seen that many times in the West Brom shirt. This looks like him back to his best. But yeah, James Morrison, fair play to him. It's not always the case that a caretaker manager does as well when he gets the permanent job, but 2 wins so far, yeah, can't complain about that at all, because they have looked brilliant in these 2 games. Of course, last season he was the man who kept West Brom up. He was the man who managed to turn the tide after what was an absolutely turgid season for West Brom as a whole. But he got them up, and people may have looked at that and thought, well, was it just a case of a coach who's popular amongst the players coming in, lifting the spirits, and then getting them over the line in the end? When it comes to them getting the permanent job, it takes a lot more than just being able to lift the team. You need to be, tactically spot on as well, and have your man management spot on. And so far, it looks like James Morrison is the real deal. So fair play to him. A great start for the Albion. But yeah, Burnley, dear me, this was not good. As I say, compared to what we saw against West Ham last week, it was completely different. Against West Ham, they got a point, but they probably should have got more than that, really, because they were the better team throughout that game. They took on West Ham and were the better side throughout the 90 minutes, despite being 2 goals down at one point. I think missing Zion Fleming was a big blow in this. He had an injury, which has led to a lot of Burnley fans speculating about whether that actually is the case and whether it's just about him potentially leaving the club in the next week or so. Apparently, he has got an injury, so we'll leave that there and won't speculate any further. But yeah, Burnley looked really, really poor here. And the fight after going down 2 goals, 3-1, 2 goals behind, was just not there. It was, considering I I had my scepticism about Burnley heading into this season with my pre-season predictions. I think I had them like 13th, which is very low, much lower than anyone else has got them. And after seeing that West Ham game, I was thinking, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe Burnley will be fine this season. And this mass exodus they had over the summer was just not anything to really worry about. After that West Ham game, that's what I was thinking. But then after this, yeah, I'm worried again. That's how quickly things can change in football. I think the only player who can come out of this with any credit really was Brun Larsen on the left wing. He was their main danger man throughout. He did one moment in this game where one of the most outrageous turns I've ever seen in football, period. It was an outrageous bit of skill from him, but he was the only one who seemed capable of producing anything for Burnley. And after the 2 goals, after they went 2 goals behind, that was pretty much it for them. So yeah, worrying. A worrying performance from the Clarets here. Nicky Hyen, I'm sure, is still getting used to his team, and he still doesn't know at this moment in time who he's going to have as his full squad by the end of the transfer window. But yeah, definitely a lot of work to do with him, and he'll be hoping that transfer window closes as soon as possible. But obviously he can't do much about that, can he? So yeah, a lot of work to do for Burnley. It's 2 wins from 2 for Millwall after they battered 10-man Norwich 3-0. Yeah, Jose Cordoba sent off in the 64th minute, but it would be very unfair on Millwall to say that was a deciding factor in this game, because they were 2-0 up by that point anyway, and they should have been even further ahead by that point as well, because they have absolutely battered Norwich in this game from start to finish. They were first to every ball. They carved out chance after chance after chance. It was a very, very impressive showing from the wall. Alex Neil even said it was the most complete performance that he has seen in his time as Millwall manager. And that says an awful lot, doesn't it? Although, having said that, most Norwich fans seem to be saying it was the worst performance they've seen from Norwich under Philippe Clement. So kind of balances itself out. But let's not take anything away from Millwall here, who were fantastic. And what a start it has been from them over these first 2 games. They have been helped by the fact that they have faced 2 sides who have both had a man sent off against them. But they sit top of the league right now, and it is 100% deserved. 2 very, very comfortable wins. Not conceded a goal yet. If there's any team in the division who has flown out the traps, it is them. And it goes back to my chat about them at the start of the season. You had the bookies tipping Millwall to finish mid-table, and it wasn't just me who was saying this, but looked at that and thought, that doesn't make any sense. Millwall were fantastic last season. They very nearly pipped a very expensive Ipswich side to promotion, and that wasn't a fluke. They deserved to be in the automatic promotion conversation. And based off this, it looks like they're going to be in there once again. They have got more or less the same team that they had last season, with 5, 6, 7 new additions on top. Tyreek Arconte from Rodare, 2 goals here, looks very exciting, did produce a miss of the season contender last week, but brilliant showing from him. Kyrell Lisby from Peterborough, unlucky not to score here really, but he was a constant thorn in Norwich's side all night long, and his pace is going to be a real problem for Championship fullbacks to deal with this season. Jensen Metcalf, by the way, probably one of the low-key signings for Millwall, who won't necessarily catch the eye of many. He's a midfielder from Bradford, but could be subtle signing of the season. A new category of signing of the season that I'm introducing there. But he has been fantastic. I've been very, very impressed with him. I've been very impressed with Millwall in general, but he has been someone who's really caught my eye in these first few games. I'll give a shout as well for the goalkeeper, Lucas Jensen, who missed the entirety of last season through injury. You almost forget about him really when it came to Millwall this season, because he was a fantastic goalkeeper before, and back-to-back clean sheets in these first 2 games. Admittedly hasn't been very busy in those 2 games, but instantly back into the side and is like a new signing really for the Wall. And keep in mind, Millwall have played so well in these first 2 games, they've still got their marquee signing of the summer in Mathis Surveys to come into the team, the midfielder from Belgium, who they spent £5 million on. So yeah, exciting times for Millwall. Based off what I've seen, there is no reason at all why they can't be challenging for the automatics again, because as I say, same team as last season with added additions. They've got Alex Neil, one of the most underrated managers at this level, and it has been for quite some time, if you ask me. Brilliant tactician. And when you keep in mind that you look around the rest of the division, it's not like anyone else who has been tipped for promotion this season is exactly flying out the blocks. Why can't Millwall take the initiative early on and then stay right up there or around that ballpark for the entire season? See no reason why not, because this is a very smartly run club and they've got a very exciting side. So yes, huge thumbs up for Millwall so far, without a doubt, the best team over these first two games. Whereas Norwich, back-to-back losses for them. Last week they were unlucky with the Hegerber handball incident and the fact that they absolutely dominated West Brom throughout that game. This was bad though. This was really, really bad. Was it just a bad day at the office? I'm inclined to say yes, because we haven't seen many bad performances under Philippe Clement so far, and Millwall were in top gear here. Millwall was going to be one of the toughest games for quite a few teams this season, so I don't think it's any shame losing there. The manner of the performance is a bit of a concern, but I wouldn't lose my head necessarily like Adrian Durham on TalkSport. He was saying this weekend that Norwich should have an emergency meeting and sack Philippe Clement, which... yeah, bit over the top, say the very least. But yeah, not the most ideal start for Norwich. I think they're bottom of the league, which, not what I would have expected with them heading into this season. But they've got Cardiff away next. I think that will give us a better idea of where this Norwich team is. But yeah, not great for the Canaries, especially when I predicted them to finish second this season. A 95th minute penalty from Damari Gray saw Birmingham get a point in a very controversial 2-2 draw with Bristol City. We'll get onto that controversy in a sec, because fuck me, Dom Ballard, what on earth have you just done? That was a Puskas winner. That's what he's bloody done. My word, that is one of the most outrageous goals I've ever seen in my entire life. If you haven't seen it yet, I implore you, as soon as this video has ended, because I don't want to encourage you to click away, watch that goal. It is disgusting. He has done a backheel volley, not just like a yard out either. He's done it from, I would say, 8 yards out and put it into the top corner. What on earth? How? I don't understand the thought process with him, because why would you even try that? Why would you have the audacity to try that, let alone pull it off, and then pull it off as well as it has gone? I needed a cold bath after that. That is just wrong. Dom Ballard, you need to be put in prison for that goal, because I've never seen a goal like that in my entire life. I've watched a lot of football in my life. I have never seen a goal like that, let alone one that made me feel things in all the wrong kind of places. Yeah, I'm not sure I'll ever see a goal like that again, because that was ridiculous. Dom Ballard, you've won goal of the season already. Because I don't see how anything could possibly top that. But let's get on to the controversy, because they are centred around two Birmingham goals. Because Birmingham had a goal by Jean Solis ruled out late on. No one knew what it was for at the time, and then it turns out it's because Marvin Dukes was stood in front of the goalkeeper. And I can see why the referee has given it, but there is no chance on earth in Sam Tickle, the goalkeeper, ever getting near that in a million years. So ruling that out was a bizarre decision by the referee. But then Birmingham did eventually get the equaliser with a penalty, which came from a handball? ? The awkward thing is, when it comes to covering the Championship, is in the Premier League you've got a million different angles and replays being able to show you every single angle of an incident, right? In the Championship, if it's a game that's not on TV or, exclusive TV coverage, you only usually get one camera angle and it's a zoomed in of the main camera. And I have absolutely no idea if that's handball or not. There's an arm sticking out, but whether it is handball, I don't know. It's inconclusive, to say the very least. But Birmingham will say it's justice based off, them having the goal ruled out previously. So maybe it makes sense in that regard. But yeah, a strange game for the referee in this. I think both teams will claim that they deserve the win with the controversy in mind. On the balance of play, if either team deserved to win it, it was Bristol City. They had the most of the chances during this game. I would be a bit worried if I was Birmingham. They were the better team against Sheffield United last week. That's a universal opinion, I would imagine. This one, I would say Bristol City edged it. But the concern for me is that on paper, this was their most winnable game out of their opening 9 fixtures. Birmingham have got a very, very hard start. And if they're not getting 3 points here, yeah, Chris Davis, he's still under pressure to a certain extent right now, but that pressure could very much build in the coming weeks. Wolves got the first win of the season with a 3-1 victory at Preston. First league away victory for 16 months. My oh my, that is a long time coming for Wolves. But you know what? Fair play to them. This was better. They were pretty shocking against Blackburn last weekend and were very lucky to get a point from that. But yeah, this was better. Wouldn't get too carried away. My instinct is that they were definitely helped by Preston being absolutely turgid. They did score your classic consolation goal. I don't know why it is, but the perfect consolation goal for me is a screamer that comes completely out of nowhere and is in the 93rd minute or whatever, and that's basically what happened here. So a classic of the genre, if you will, when it comes to Preston's consolation goal. But yeah, Preston were bad. I am increasingly worried about them because, yes, it's just 2 games, but they have been 2 really, really poor showings. And they have got a squad which is looking very patchy. Paul Heckingbottom has made it very clear he's not been very happy with the transfer business over the summer. And if things don't improve in the next week and a bit, with the transfer window closing a week on Tuesday, then yeah, he may be thinking about his future at Preston, put it that way, because things haven't been great over the past few months with regards to them. But yeah, for Wolves, great result, great to finally get an away win in the league. I think when it comes to assessing this game, there's only one man to really talk about. It's Fer Lopez, the number 10 for Wolves. If you don't know who he is, which I imagine a fair few people outside of Molyneux may not know, he actually signed for Wolves for £19 million in the summer of last year. And since then, has barely kicked a ball for Wolves. He was very lightly used in the first half of last season and then ended up going back to the club that Wolves signed him from, Celta Vigo, on loan for the second half of the season. So hasn't really had a great time at Molyneux prior to this season, but it's the most cliche of all cliches, but he's like a new signing now for them, because in these first 2 games, he has been Wolves' best player. He has been the main spark in midfield for them. He has been the one who looks like he can make things happen. He's hugely impressed in pre-season as well. And if these first 2 games are anything to go by, he's going to be central to any promotion push for Wolves. Because, let's be frank, based off the player that he was prior to moving to Wolves, because I did know a fair bit about him prior to that, he shouldn't really be playing in the Championship, but he's one player who looks like a cut above at this level. So yeah, very impressed with him. He's going to be a big player for Wolves as the season goes on. Southampton's season is up and running. 2 late goals saw them beat Stoke 3-1. People will probably look at the scoreline and think Southampton breezed past Stoke, but the truth is they didn't in this one. It was pretty even, really, for the most part. Victor Janssen and the Stoke goal didn't really have much to do until right at the end, where he had to pit the ball out the back of his net. But yeah, for Southampton, second game in a row where they were much better in the second half. I would say they're definitely quite a way off the standard that they set themselves in the second half of last season, because they were amazing. Of course, there may have been other circumstances as to why that was the case. But yeah, they haven't looked like that team yet in these first two games. Leo Cienza in particular, worryingly poor. I don't know why, because there shouldn't be any reason really why he has looked so poor, considering he was one of the contenders for player of the season, if you ask me, last season. But yeah, he hasn't been great. I think it's fair to say Southampton are far from the finished product, and Southampton fans will be definitely hoping that's the case as well. They've got a fair bit of work to do in the final few days of the transfer window. Taylor Howard-Bellis looks like he's going to be going, which is a huge loss for Southampton. And I'm not sure I have much confidence in a centre-back pairing of Jack Stevens and Nathan Wood for an entire campaign. So I would say they definitely need to strengthen there. They're also looking very light in midfield, with Shea Charles obviously going. Casper Yander has been linked with a move away. So midfield definitely needs some additions as well. But yeah, Southampton, one of those sides who I would say need to do the most business, or that the need to do business is the most urgent with them in the final, 10 days of the transfer window or whatever it is. So yeah, they'll be hoping that they can get something done with just a few days to go. Stoke, back-to-back losses for them. I think Stoke fans are probably expecting me to lambast them based off these two results so far, but they haven't been terrible in these first two games, if I'm being honest. Haven't exactly been unlucky either. I think 2 losses is probably fair, but it's not like they've been stinking the place out. I do find it quite funny how Stoke have spent £30 million this summer, which, let's make it clear, is one of the biggest sums of money a non-parachute payment team has ever spent in the Championship in a single transfer window. Yet Stoke still have Ben Gibson starting for them at centre-half. Maybe you could have taken the £10 million you spent on George Hurst and spread it around the squad a bit more. That's probably what I would have done, Stoke. The huge worry for them, right, is that they have started the season with 2 losses, and they ended last season terribly. They haven't been able to break that habit yet. And when you're in that habit and losing week in, week out, as they were for the most part in the second half of last season, and that's continued into this season, that would be a big, big worry for me with Stoke. And the longer that continues, the more likely it is that Stoke have another season of struggle, and that would be simply unacceptable for a team who have spent as much money as they have this past summer. Mark Robins, I think the pressure is massively building on him, and I think the pressure is building on John Walters, the sporting director, as well, because when you spend that much money and we're not necessarily seeing results, yeah, not good. There was a defeat for Lincoln City in their first home game in the second tier of English football since 1961. They lost 3-1 to Portsmouth, and Pompey were great here. Much better than they were where they were pretty much blown away by QPR last weekend. Lincoln did come close a couple of times outside of the goal they scored, but yeah, were ultimately outdone by some brilliant goals for Pompey. Ryan Kavuma McQueen, on loan from Chelsea, he got the first. Never heard of him before this season, but he looks a very exciting player. He's only 17. You don't get many 17-year-olds coming on loan to the Championship, but yeah, he looks a great talent. Adrian Segacic scored the second with a thunderous free kick, and gotta say, brings a tear to my eye when I see Ebru Adams smashing one in from 25 yards out. Please come back to Derby, Ebru. We miss you so much. But yeah, the early signs are that Portsmouth could be a really fun side this season. That attacking three of Kavuma, McQueen, Segacic and Abu Kamara, who is starting to show signs already of him returning back to the Abu Kamara, who was brilliant previously for Portsmouth. That could be a really fun attack as the season progresses. Hopefully, as time goes on, the new striker Milanovic will prove to be a good front man ahead of that attacking three. But we'll see. That's a small concern right now. Another concern would be Josh Murphy going off injured in this game. He would significantly improve that attacking three even further if he does have a sustained run of fitness, but we've not seen much of that over the past year and a bit. So a bit of a worry there, but overall, Portsmouth very good here. I think they do what they usually do, Portsmouth, where they fill out their team with players who have come out of nowhere, look quite good. Benjamin Arthur, who is that? Didn't realise Football Manager regens actually existed in real life, but that's who he seems to be. I think if all is well with injuries, Portsmouth will definitely have a season of progression. Haven't seen any reason to think that is going to be the case this season just yet. We'll touch wood on that front. But yeah, if everyone could stay fit, Portsmouth could be a very fun team to watch this season. I wouldn't expect huge things with them, but as long as they stay clear of a relegation battle, I think most Pompey fans will take that. Derby County 2, Cardiff City 2. I'm not enjoying this season. 2 games in, and I'm not enjoying this season. Can we just end it now and wait again until next August? Because this isn't shaping up to be an amazing season for Derby. Can we extend the playoffs even further? I know it's a top 8 for the first time this season. If we go down to about 16th, Derby may have a chance. But right now, these first couple of games have given me more reasons to worry than reasons to be encouraged. A draw is probably the fair result in this game, to be honest, but I look at it from a Derby perspective with my Derby tinted glasses on. Home advantage, newly promoted side. Derby finished 8th last season, and that newly promoted side having no centre halves. Derby should really be winning this game, but the performance was very, very iffy at times. Genuinely, Cardiff could have been 3-0 up after about 30 minutes of this, and if they did have centre halves, they probably would have seen Derby off. And thank God we've got Bobby Clark, because he's the only one who provided some sort of a spark here for Derby. Really, it's not been a good start to the season. I think 1 point against 2 teams who a playoff hopeful should be beating isn't great. But the reason why it's not been great is pretty obvious to most Derby fans. We need players. Derby are possibly even the side who need to sign players most in the final week and a bit of the transfer window, because the squad is looking so patchy. The performances have left a lot to be desired. And the reason is we haven't got any wingers. You know, John Eustace likes to play with wingers. He hasn't flipping got any to play with apart from Corey Blackett-Taylor and Ryan Brewster, who usually can't stay fit. So yeah, need players in, and especially a left back as well. Charlie Taylor, actually, to be fair to him, has played pretty well in these first couple of games, but Derby desperately need players at left back, wing, probably plenty of other positions as well. So, yeah, not good, but I don't think it's dramatic to say that the next week and a bit will decide Derby's season. Simple as that. One final thing to mention on this is we saw the return in the Derby shirt of Ryan Nyambe. For those who aren't aware, he is the record holder in the Championship right now for the most appearances in Championship history without scoring a single goal. He's on 210 appearances. Never scored a goal in his entire career. He's 28, I think. So, yeah, that's exciting. If Ryan Nyambe does score this season, then I won't be responsible for my actions, put it that way. But yeah, something for us to monitor as the season progresses, because right now it doesn't look like Derby's season is going to be very exciting. Wrexham 1, Watford 1. Game of 2 halves, really. Watford were better in the first. Wrexham will think they should have won it in the second, really. Lewis O'Brien will be thinking over and over again about that header he missed late on in this game. Not a huge amount to say on this, to be honest. I think my main takeaway is that, once again, Watford didn't look like a side who are going to struggle this season. A lot of people have tipped them to go down, but didn't look like a struggler based off this game or the game that we saw last weekend against Southampton. They do need to strengthen. I think that's a unanimous opinion. They've only got 2 centre-backs right now. Watford fans want a new number 9, but Luka Keramgar, a great header in this. If he can, channel that again and again as the season progresses, they won't need another number 9. And it's got to be kept in mind, they have got money to spend because they've sold Iran Kunda for big money. It looks like Imran Loser will be going, and if that does happen, I imagine they'll get a big fee for him. So why not go out there and spend? And at the very least, there's players who you can get out there on free transfers or loans on big money as well. So yeah, Watford need to get players in, but encouraged from these first 2 games is what I would say. Wrexham, they look like they are very much set to spend big in the next week and a bit. I talked about it in Friday's transfer roundup. Lucas Nmecha from Leeds, potentially, he's been linked. Axel Tuanzebe's been linked as well. Don't be surprised at all if Wrexham really do go out there and blow teams away in the transfer market in the final few days. They did all right in this game, but an extra sprinkle of stardust will go an awful long way with this Wrexham team. QPR v Bolton, that ended goalless, although I have absolutely no idea how QPR didn't win this one. The stats for this game basically tell you all you need to know. QPR had 18 shots. Bolton had just 2 in the entire 90 minutes. The Bolton goalkeeper, Jack Bonham, made 10 saves. That is the 3rd most in a single championship game in the last 3 seasons. So yeah, QPR much the better side in this one. Having said that, there wasn't exactly a chance in this game where you thought, how on earth have QPR not scored there? They had decent chances, but there wasn't a golden one where you're thinking, okay, that is the one where it's just ridiculous how they haven't scored. Bolton defended very well, to be fair to them. Didn't obviously offer a whole lot going forwards. QPR, definitely the better team. Annoying because I picked them in last man standing this week, so they've let me down there. But as far as my dark horse is concerned, I'm not, making a sad horsey noise right now. I'd still take a lot of encouragement away from this, even though this undoubtedly should have been 3 points for Rangers. And the final game we'll discuss is Swansea versus Sheffield United. 2 0-0s from 2 for the Blades. Yeah, I did say on Thursday that this game looked very much like the strong favourite to be the last game I talked about in today's show. Just screamed of meh to me, and it was a bit of a strange game, really, because Swansea were the better team, but if anyone came closest to scoring, it was Sheffield United. Swansea really lacked that final ball. Didn't have many chances to speak of, which sort of reminiscent of last season, but they have got a load of new signings who do need time to gel, so let's not get carried away there. But 4 points from Swansea's opening 2 games. Think they'll be happy with that? Sheffield United fans facing the possibility of not seeing a single goal all season long, which is quite funny. But yeah, nothing really to take away from this game other than that. But there we have it, ladies and gents. This has been your roundup of Game Week 2 for the Championship. Let me know how your team got on this weekend in the comments section below. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you give it a like and subscribe for more Championship-related content just like this. I've been Ryan Dilks. A big thank you for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.